Hey guys, StarCraft here, and I'm here with another interview. Much like last time, I talked about a bunch of Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini books, had an interview with them. This time, talked about a bunch of Mark Poulton's books, and I have the man himself right here. How's it going, Mark?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yep, and I gotta say, when you were coming on and doing all these crowdfunding books, I immediately thought, I know that name. Where have I heard that name before? Looked it up, and sure enough, you did a couple issues of Savage Hawkman during New 52 when Rob Liefeld got 3 books. Could you maybe talk about that? How was that?
Sure. It was a fun experience. I've known Rob for years. Actually, like growing up as a comic book fan, he was my favorite comic book artist. And then thanks to the internet, I got to become friends with him when I was first breaking into the industry. He had a message board, and I would post on there, and I started sharing like one of my like earliest projects, and he was real encouraging about it. And one day he just called me up out of the blue. It was actually Thanksgiving 2006. I got a phone call. I got a phone call on my cell phone from a number I didn't recognize, and I answered it, and I was like, "Hello." And on the other end, I hear, "Poulton, it's Liefeld. What's up?" And
Oh, that must have been a shocker.
yeah, oh man, I couldn't believe it. And he talked my ear off for 2 hours, just telling me he had all these plans, and he wanted to bring his character Evangeline back, and he wanted me to be the writer because he was real impressed with my indie book Coney Waves. So
That's right. You did work on Evangeline. I remember seeing that under your bibliography.
yeah, yeah. So it would take a few years before Evangeline got off the ground, but I did some other work for him here and there. And then while I was doing Evangeline, I was at my day job, and I got an email from him, and it was just like it was just like typical Rob. He was like, "Hey, DC wants me to do a bunch of books. I told them I needed help. Do you want to do Hawkman with me?" It was something along those lines. And I responded back, "Yes, of course." And then I didn't hear from him for a month.
Oh, again,
And
typical
then
Rob, right?
yeah, and then he emailed me back and said, "Hey, DC is going to be in touch. They want to get you on their payroll. We're going to start moving on Hawkman." And it
Nice.
was, yeah, it was a great experience. I worked with we had a great creative team. It was Rob was doing the plot, I was doing the script, Joe Bennett was the artist, and Art T. Bear was the inker. So it was like for me, all those guys had worked for Rob at Extreme, and Extreme was like my favorite studio when I was collecting as a teen. So it was like a dream come true for me. It was a great experience.
I bet. Short-lived, though, unfortunately. Like, technically, you were on only, it says you were on 6 issues because your name's on one of the other titles, number 13, but you really only
Yeah.
wrote for 5 of them.
Yeah. So I don't know if you remember things. Rob had a rocky relationship with DC at that time. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, one day I just my I, at my day job, my phone just starts blowing up, and I'm getting all these notifications. So I click on one, and the first thing I see, someone tagged me in a tweet, and I said, "I just hope Mark Poulton has a job after this." And I'm like,
Oh,
"What?"
no, not what you want to read.
Yeah, I'm like, "What's going on?" So I find out that Rob quit all his books at DC, and like I was up in the air all day. I didn't know what was going on, and then DC sent me an email later in the day saying that they were letting me go, and they didn't know who was going to write the book. And then like the very next day, they emailed me back and said, "Hey, we have all Rob's stories. Do you want to come back and we'll give you we'll double your pay?" I was like, "Oh, this is great." and so issue 13 that my name's on, I was like, I don't know how long this is going to last. I wrote the script for issue 13 in a day, and I turned it in. And then like the very next day, they said, Because Rob was going back and forth with Scott Snyder on Twitter, and they
Oh no.
yeah, someone at DC, I think it was Didio, he got like really ticked off about that, and they couldn't take it out on Rob, so they took it out on me because I was Rob's guy.
Oh, is that why Frank Thierry got? It was either you or Frank as well, and I guess since Frank was doing Grifter, they gave it to him. It looks like.
Yeah, so I got fired. I got paid for 13. I don't know if they used my script or not. I know my name's on the comic.
No, they not. They used Frank Thierry's
Yeah.
writing because he's in the interior credits.
Yeah, so it was a crazy time, but I mean, for what it was worth, for the short time, it was a great experience to work with like legends like Rob. I love Rob, RT Bear,
Yep.
Joe Bennett, and today to this day, I still get DC royalties every now and then, so it's not a bad experience.
Right. Now, obviously, the main reason we're here is to talk about your crowdfunding books, obviously, starting with, and the biggest of all, Graveyard Shift. Now, from what I understand, you and John Mayne have been working on this for quite a long time, like, according to the book, 2010, I believe.
Yeah, so John and I, we've known each other for years from Rob Liefeld's message boards. We were kind of like Rob's two proteges. Like I was the up and coming writer he was working with, and John was the artist that Rob was working with. And after I did like a Brigade relaunch with Rob back in 2010, I had this idea for a Graveyard Shift. So I pitched it to John, and like the pitch that we still use to this day. It was I pitched to John. I said, "Hey, I got this idea for Universal Monsters Meet X-Men," and he responded back, and he was like, he doesn't remember this, but I remember as clear as day. He was like, "A lot of people want me to draw their book, but you're the first person to ask me to draw monsters. I'm in." So, so that's how we. Yeah, that's how we got the ball rolling on Graveyard Shift. We started working on it in 2010. Rob was actually like one of our first fans of the book. We had about 6 pages, maybe 6 or 8 pages together of like the original version, which is an ash can that we produced back in 2010. And I showed it to Rob, and he flipped out over it, and he was like. He was on a meeting. He was flying out to talk with Robert Kirkman about something. He goes, "When I get back, I'm going to help you guys set this up at Image. I love it." Well, when Rob was out talking with Kirkman, it was about the Extreme relaunch that was happening around that time, and Rob decided he loved like the Graveyard Shift pages so much that he offered John the job on Youngblood. So we had to push Graveyard Shift to the side. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been. And then, of course, John went on to do a few other books here and there, then the cable stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
But what eventually led to bringing it to comics, crowdfunding in general and Comicsgate?
Yeah, so we would work on it. Well, like my part was done; it was written. So John would work on it whenever he had downtime from Youngblood or his Marvel work, and it worked out perfectly almost. That when he left Marvel, because he was sort of tired of the politics, and I think it was like his editor who said anyone who votes for Trump.
That one. I know that one.
Yeah.
We'll remember. We'll never forget.
Yeah. So that's when John decided to leave Marvel, and we were going to do Graveyard Shift, but he got offered the Jawbreakers job. So he took that first, and Jawbreakers blew up, and I think it helped John get even more of a name than what he had at Marvel. So then it was just a perfect opportunity for us to launch Graveyard Shift. We already had the first book done at that point.
Okay, and that sounds pretty good. Now you're saying the whole first volume was already well written years ago, and then all right. Well, then if you don't mind my asking, since we're going to focus on the first one,
Sure.
Is that part of the? Now, I hope you don't mind any criticism, because in my review I did get a little critical on two key parts. One of which, if you don't mind, I like the
Is it the
handing of the
explosion
love
scene?
triangle. What?
I was gonna say, is it the explosion?
That's later. We'll get to that later. I want to know
Okay.
what the love triangle first.
Yeah.
It's like you said. It's like you guys have said it's supposed to be like your Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Wolverine. But if I can be brutally honest, it feels a bit all over the place. It's better in
Yeah.
Volume 2, but in Volume
Right.
1, it just because you open up right away with "Help me forget him," and yet when we get a flashback when they found him, it says a different story altogether. It's like, where does things stand? You know?
Right. Well, I think in Mick's eyes, he's always hoping that there's there's still a chance, but
Mhm.
but Lilith is always at the point like once she met Vlad, like Vlad was her guy. Her relationship with Mick, unbeknownst to Mick, was like kind of over. She they're two different types of people. She's an intellect, and he's like a meathead, basically. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that came across in the first book. No offense. Again, the second book,
Oh no,
you got it a
none
lot
taken.
better. But yeah, but that first book, yeah. But since you brought it up, though, the other prawn, the explosion.
Yeah.
What the heck?
So that's like the most polarizing scene in the book. People will tell me it's their favorite scene, and people will tell me that it's their absolutely worst, least favorite scene, and that they hate the book because of it. So I didn't write it. It was just something John threw in, and it was funny. We were going proofreading the letters. We were doing a stream. It was me, John, and Eric Weathers, and we came across that page, and I went, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And John's like, "What?" And I was like, there's a fetus coming out of that woman's stomach.
Yeah.
And Eric was like, "Mark, you just noticed that? It's been there this whole time." And I was like, I guess I was just so focused on like the word balloons in my story that I never noticed that until yeah. So
So John just drew it.
but yeah,
Good.
I'm the type of a writer. I just let my artists go for it. So
Mhm.
that was an artistic choice by John. It definitely got people talking.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It definitely did. And like I said, it hurt it in my eyes, but it didn't kill it for me. It was more like,
Right.
too much. But again, the rest of that first book, it was nice. But I could definitely see what you've said, that it was written a couple of years ago.
Right.
But like I gushed about in the review I posted today, Volume 2 and the supplementals, whole other story, whole lot better.
Oh, thank
Felt
you.
like you really got things what you wanted and knew where you were going. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, the idea of Van Helsing being a bad guy and later revealed to be a werewolf, where did that come from?
So the original plan was there was a werewolf on the team. And this is like this is where you'll find John and my differing like philosophies. Like if you read T-Dog, you know that I write like fun
Oh yeah.
like kind of goofy action comics. So originally there was a werewolf on the team, and when they flew off in their jet, the werewolf had his head out of hanging
I
out the
saw your
window.
description in there, yeah.
Yeah, wagging his tongue. And John was like, "Yeah, no, this book
Oh.
needs to be serious." So he's reeled me in a little bit, and I've had to make it a more serious book. But we always like the idea of a werewolf, because if you're like revamping the Universal monsters, you need a wolf man. And
Yep.
it was actually John's idea to make Van Helsing the wolf man of our story, and I thought it was great that would be the part he plays in it.
Right. that was a twist. Him being the bad guy. You're like, that's not what you usually expect from Van Helsing. And Dracula, awesome looking Dracula, but then Cthulhu, it was like, where did that come from?
Yeah, so once you get past the universal monsters, like, we're thinking, what other monsters do we want to explore? Well, there's a huge Lovecraft audience out there. Cthulhu is such an awesome looking monster, and he sort of like played into sea urchin having control of the ocean. Well, what if he found something deep in the ocean that he could manipulate and control, that would really be turning the tide on Dracula? And that's how we came up with Cthulhu.
Yeah, and again, the use of Dracula, that whole second book was just so great. But once Dracula was there, and he is as imposing a figure as you built him up to be, you did not disappoint. And the way he was taken out, it was like, oh, good. So they didn't just waste that blast earlier on Van Helsing. They actually served a purpose.
Yeah.
But I also didn't notice in the supplemental books, you're now starting to utilize slasher monsters as your next villains.
Yeah, so that was something like John and I, we were just on the same wavelength. Like when I was thinking of like future issues, I was like, oh, we need to do a futuristic version of Graveyard Shift, but doing modern day horror monsters. And the modern day monsters are all like the slasher guys, like Michael Myers, Chucky, Freddy Krueger, stuff like that. And John was the same thing, and he pitched me for the supplemental. He was like, oh, we need to do modern day horror characters. And I was like, oh, I was thinking the same thing. And then it just fell into our lap. Mike Miller asked if he could use Graveyard Shift for a crossover, and in return he said we could use Lone Star. So I was like, oh, well, we can use John was like, we can use Lone Star in this story. So yeah, everything just sort of came together.
Yep, and then I noticed Von Klaus wrote the Killer 99, the Jason allegory, and then you utilized him in the Lone Star story. Did you pitch that to him and just gave him the option and he said, I'll go with that? Or, I mean, how did that go with the two guest writers?
Yeah, so we had the talent search contest. John was in charge of picking the winning artists. I was in charge of picking the winning writers. Cal Jameson sent me like maybe the first 8 pages of Shinobi Sasquatch, and Vaughn sent me like, I think like maybe 20 pages of Monster MD, and I was like, you guys are the winners.
No kidding, no argument.
Yeah. So John and I, we had the stories we wanted them to tell. We assigned the Killer 99 story to Vaughn because of his horror background with Monster MD. We gave Cal the Mick sea urchin story because I just thought he could handle the like the emotional storytelling better. So we gave him each like the 2 plots, and then they went with it in their own way and added their own elements to it.
Which they both did a great job, a bang up job on that.
Yeah.
So funny you mentioned Mike Miller. So how much of your involvement was there in his Monster Hunt story at all? Since he utilized a small plot point you had done, which was that one shot of them finding Mick, but did you have any say whatsoever?
Not really. He sent us his script, what he had in mind, and John and I, we both signed off on it. I thought it was a clever use of using that scene as like where all 3 teams come together. And Mike, I'll say this: Mike draws a killer version of Graveyard Shift. They look very regal. I love his version of Lilith with the cape. I was like, oh, I need to incorporate that into something because she looked great.
Yeah, she looked a little paler in that one, but otherwise, yeah, she did look great. And then obviously you used Lone Star. Given how things have gotten in the past year or so, will there be more crossovers with them or what? I'm just curious.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there'll be more like Lone Star Graveyard Shift crossovers, but I'm planning a crossover with my other book, which was the stretch goal for Graveyard Shift 2 U.S.
Yep.
Assassin,
Which
an
we'll get
upcoming
to. Which.
yeah,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
an upcoming volume of U.S. Assassin will guest star Graveyard Shift.
Yep. All right. Cool. Now, another thing you had also had cameoed in that Lone Star story were Black and White, Brutus, and of the U.S. Assassin. And I think I saw Crotch Rocket dangling next to Vlad. Was that him, first of all?
No, the cameos were Black and White, Brutus, U.S. Assassin, and Shinobi Sasquatch.
Right, but because when I saw Crotch Rocket dangling, it looked like him anyway, dangling next to Vlad.
No. Yeah, I'm not really. I'm not sure what scene you're talking about, but yeah, that book had.
Sorry, the page where they're all dangling on the chains.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's just some random
next to Vlad,
that...
it looks like.
Yeah, no, it's Lone Star and Vlad hanging on the meat hooks, and then it's just someone that Mike just threw in, Mike McMahon.
Okay,
yeah,
I thought it was either Deadpool or Crotch Rocket. That's why I was asking. It's like, oh boy. All right, but again, that sounds cool that you have all these others. Obviously, you probably talked to Art about Black and White. Any future chances of a crossover with them?
I don't know. I love Art's work, so maybe, never say never.
All right, because that was cool seeing all those. I'm like, oh, was it just again cutesy cameo or setting up a big universe? I hope for the latter.
Yeah.
But again, Graveyard Shift. What, without spoiling, what do you have in mind? Because that last shot was a bit of a doozy. I'm like, wait, what the heck happened here? Timeline change? What?
Yeah, things are just getting bigger and bigger. John and I have like the first 5 volumes mapped out, so it's just getting bigger. We're expanding the universe. We're going to be introducing a lot more characters. Like we mentioned that there's actually other heroes in the Graveyard Shift universe. It's just not Graveyard Shift. There's other heroes out there, so we're going to start showing some of them. Because a big battle is coming, which we'll find out about in volume 3.
Oh, nice. And now, is John doing the artwork for 3, or is it someone else?
No comment.
No comment. All right.
We'll save it for when we launch the project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's fair. That is completely fair. Now, U.S. Assassin, where did that idea came from? Because I liked it, and the fact is, you made that a stretch goal, like a whole big book, just given up for free. I mean, where did the idea come from, and where did that idea come from as well? The idea of making it a stretch goal.
Yeah. So the idea for U.S. Assassin was basically my love of 90s comics, but 80s action films. I'm a huge fan of the movie franchise American Ninja, starring it stars Michael Dudikoff, and like there was action stars like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme that were like A-list. Dudikoff was always like the B-list action hero, but he was my favorite one. I love the American Ninja franchise, and I thought, like, what would the American Ninja be doing now once he retired from being American Ninja? So that's how I came up with the idea for U.S. Assassin, where he's like this super agent who retires, and he takes a job with a private security firm, and events lead to him. He has to don the costume one more time and become the U.S. Assassin, and it's just like crazy action. Like I said, I grew up loving Rob Liefeld comics, Extreme Studios. So this was like my attempt to do like an Extreme Studios type book. I've known Mike McMahon, the artist of the book, for a long time. He's actually another friend I made off the Rob Liefeld message boards. I've made like lifelong friends from just being a Rob Liefeld fan. So like I pitched it to him and he was on board, and he's actually like when John and I first released that very first Graveyard Shift Ash Can. We did it at a Wizard World in Philadelphia back in 2011. Mike was actually there with us. And he was like our first official like Graveyard Shift fan. And since we were working with him, since I was working with him on US Assassin, and we needed those supplemental stories, we offered Mike a job drawing my Lone Star Graveyard Shift 3000 story. And when John and I were just coming up with stretch goals, John was like, what do you think about giving the fans US Assassin for free if we hit something ridiculous like $170,000? And I was like, wow, that's really a big goal to hit. I was like, sure, I'm down for it. That would be a lot of people we're giving the book to. That's great promotion for me and Mike. But like, I'm part of Graveyard Shift. So if Graveyard Shift does so well that we hit $170,000, that's great for me. But Mike is, in a sense, giving his hard work away for free. We compensated him for it. But he agreed because he agreed with me that it would be a great promotion, especially since we have like volume 2 done. So what better way to get people to buy volume 2 is if we give volume 1 away for free to 2,500 people.
Yeah. And according to this, your son was Chase was involved with this, and Dog Codename Killswitch. Now, Dog Codename Killswitch, I could see a kid being involved. What was your son's involvement with US Assassin? US Assassin wasn't like his first comic book. He did a book with me back in 2017 called Pizza Tree. It was a kid's graphic novel, so it's more kid appropriate. Nothing like US Assassin. Right.
But that went on to we got nominated for a Ringo Award for that, and we won a Moonbeam Award for Best Kids Graphic Novel. So he's always been real interested in what I've been working on. But one day he brought this picture to me that he drew of this monster, this like snake man with his tongue was this 3-headed snake, and he had shackles with chains hanging off for gauntlets. And I was like, oh, he is so cool. I hung him up in my office and I took a picture of him. And Mike was working on real early on working on US Assassin, and he saw that picture that I posted on like Facebook or something, and he goes, that guy needs to be one of the villains. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, yeah, he's awesome looking. So Mike redesigned him a little bit, and that character was Slither. He's one of my favorite characters to write in US Assassin, but my son Chase created him. And then while we were working on the book, Chase and I were playing with his Lego guys one day, and he had a little Lego German Shepherd, and I took a bazooka and I stuck it on the dog's back, and I was like, "Hey Chase, bazooka dog," and so Chase and I were playing when Bazooka Dog was created, and I loved Bazooka Dog so much. I said, Mike, he needs to be in the book. And I don't think Mike took me serious. And I was like, no, it's a dog. It's a cyborg dog, and his back opens up, and a giant bazooka and all these other weapons pop out. He's like the Inspector Gadget of dogs. So Mike designed him and made him real cool. So like with Chase's involvement helping create some of these characters, it just made the writing US Assassin so much more fun.
Definitely. Okay, now that you put it that way, it makes more sense. Which, since we can transition into Dog and Codename Killswitch. Now, I noticed in this one, you and your son have the rights for Sea Dog, but Clint Helinski has it for Codename Killswitch. Would that mean those were his creations? Sea Dog was yours, and you just tossed them together, or what?
Yeah. So how the whole project came about was so the Graveyard Shift campaign was going on, the second one, and it was doing so great. I was excited about it, but my wife and my son, they got swept up in it too. And at the time, Chase had just done Pizza Tree with me, and he was like, "Dad, I'm tired of doing kid books. I want to do Shift." And I was like, "Well, we can do like a real superhero comic if you want. Let's try to think of ideas." And my son loves dogs. We have two of them. He wanted to do like a dog type character, and originally we came up with Dogfish, but I was like, but I looked it up, and there's actually a kid's book called Dogfish. So I was like trying to think of another version. So I was like Sea Dog. And, Chase came up with his powers. He can fly. He has super strength, and he can turn into a fish. I expanded that to he can turn into any sea creature. And then Chase was like, he also has awesome rap skills. And I was like, oh, that works, because now his name can be Sea Dog when he's the superhero, but Sea Dog, CDAWG when he's the rapper.
So, and then have it be, my lawyers are going to sue Sea Dogs. But
yeah, so we had this character, but we had no idea who was going to draw it or when we were going to work on it. And while Graveyard Shift, the campaign's doing killer, Clint Helinski, who I've known for years. I used to work for Arcana Studio, which was an indie publisher based out of Canada, and Clint did some work for us. He did one of our like top titles, Cade, but we also had the license for Greatest American Hero, and Clint was the artist on that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And Clint reached out to me, and he was like, "Man, you're doing killer with Graveyard Shift. If you ever want to collaborate on something." And I was like, "Well, I got this crazy idea that my son and I came up with." So I pitched it to him, and he was on board, and he goes, "Well, I got this group of heroes that I think would fit in well." So it almost became like a Marvel team up where our Sea Dog teamed up with his Codename Killswitch. And you might say, if you look at Codename Killswitch, some of these characters look a little familiar.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah, so I just think that plays in perfect with the type of character Sea Dog is, and the the whole like feel of the book. It's like this silly, over the top, fun superhero team. I feel like if they were around in the 90s, they would have had their own cartoon series that was part of the Fox Kids network right after X-Men or something.
Granted, the ladies might have been toned down a little in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yes, and so I take it Sea Dog is more like what you were wanting to do with Graveyard Shift before John, but is that, no, we got to keep it more gritty?
Yes, well, maybe not as, because Sea Dog gets a little goofy, but there would have been more more humor in Graveyard Shift. But yeah, like once John said this should be serious, and like he told me what he had in mind for it, I was all on board. So yeah, I don't mind doing the serious dark comic,
right?
You mix it up. You do the serious dark comic. You do the fun over the top goofy comic.
Yep. Now here's the question I gotta ask. Editor's note from the epic and unproduced Soldier 7 Blood and Vodka. What was that about? Was that just meant to be a joke about Image Books having all these preludes and checkout here and there, or was that something that Clint never really made?
No, so the idea was mine. I wanted to establish that these heroes have been around before, so I wanted to allude to an adventure that Soldier 7 had in the past, and Clint loved it so much he was like, we need to do this story. So I don't know if we'll do it for volume 2, but eventually somewhere down the line there will be a Soldier 7 Blood and Vodka story, and it'll just be like his Nick Fury type adventure in Russia with spies and beautiful women.
Okay. Yeah, because I asked because that sounds something like, I don't know if you ever heard the guy Linkara Top the Fourth Wall when he did a parody book called Blood Gun. He would put in there like, check out Blood Gun 1.5, Blood Gun 0, Blood Gun yada yada yada, Hanukkah special, making fun of how so many of Rob's old books in Youngblood would say, oh, next issue we'll do this. You want to follow? You got to check out Brigade. You got to check this out. It's like, okay, can we get a straightforward series? So yeah, well, that was just good summarizing everything. But we're gonna be all over the place going forward now. But back to Graveyard Shift. Was there anything, if you would go back with the first volume and you'd want to rework or tweak anything at all? Not counting the explosion scene, of course.
I'd like to spell infatuation correctly. We had one typo in the book, so yeah. Oh, that bugs me so much. But we corrected it for the reprint. But yeah, I you read something so much, you see it the way it's supposed to be instead of the way it actually appears. And yeah, so that one typo I'd like to change. Everything else, I guess I live in the now, so right. No regrets over. I don't want to go back and change anything. It worked out well for us.
All right. So now, also the notion. Now, I also want to ask: was Van Helsing, was he just that charismatic that everyone around the world just adored him, or was it some other force causing it? Because it did seem to reach a little bit of between. Once I read the second book, is like, oh, he went out on the lawn and like, what did he do? Because did I miss something with what he did to regain everyone's trust, or did he just give a speech and that was it?
No, he's just his charisma is like off the charts, man. He can sway people just with the power of persuasion.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And now and also with the ship. What's it called again? Dracula's the big orbiting station. Was that meant to look like Deep Space Nine at all? I don't know if anyone's pointed that out because it looks like it.
Yeah. John's a big Star Trek fan, so yeah.
That was intentional. Okay. Mm-hmm. So
I think you're the first person to point that out, which John thought was so obvious. He was amazed that no one had pointed that out yet.
Really? I would have thought someone else would have, because I look at that thing, I'm like, that's so Deep Space Nine with the big circle and the pillars and everything. Yeah. But any other hints off you want to give to future projects besides just Graveyard Shift 3 and Codename Killswitch and USassassin, or are you just sticking to those three?
No, I got a couple other projects in the works. Upcoming, the public domain character, the Black Owl. I've updated him for the modern era, so that book's almost done. I think there's about maybe 8 more pages left to be penciled, and then I'm going to have it colored. I want to have it 100% done before I launch it. That way, the turnaround time for backers getting it is quicker.
Oh, but, that is better. I think more people should do that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping sometime this year I'll do the campaign for Black Owl, and then I have another book, Viking Wolf, with artist Matt Dalton and Renzo Rodriguez, and that's going to be 2021, and the artwork for that just looks incredible. The whole, like, where Graveyard Shift was, oh, what if the Universal monsters were the X-Men? I got thinking, what if Thor was a wolf? So yeah. It's just going to be an incredible book. I'm toying with the idea of printing it magazine format, like 8.5 by 11. Square bound, like an oversized magazine sized book, just because of the artwork so incredible. I feel like I want to do it justice. I want to print it big so everyone can enjoy the artwork.
Nice. On the back of Sea King there was Pirate Queen. Is that something you're working on?
No, that's Clint Clint's upcoming book that he's doing with Mandy Summers, who did Wart the Wizard.
Ah, all right. Cause yeah, I was just curious on that one as well. And hey, that seems to got my interest big time.
Yeah, it looks great.
It does. So, and now are you going to be focusing on just trying to create this long bunch of books, or are you going to mostly keep your focus to any? I'm asking because when I talked with Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini, they said they were mostly keeping theirs to Common America and Black Ops. So I'm just curious, are you going to do that as well, or are you just going to get as many ideas out as you can?
So like, I have Graveyard Shift, U.S. Assassin, Black Owl, Viking Wolf, and Sea Dog. So those are my 5 books. I think I want to keep it to that. One day I would love to do a crossover involving all of them, and it'd be like a little mini event to run through the year of crowdfunding.
Yeah. So speaking of with crowdfunding, do you think we've reached a peak and everything? I mean, Ethan aside, I've noticed there has been a bit of we've reached a stable point. So do you think that's where we're at, or do you think we're going to keep going up going forward?
It'll be interesting.
Ethan aside.
Right. The $1 million man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting because like a lot of people's campaigns have all, like, their second campaign doubled their first campaign. For Graveyard Shifts, we did like $106,000. Graveyard Shift between the 2 campaigns, because we did the Andrew Huerta variant cover, we did almost $250,000. So we more than doubled our first one. It'll be interesting to see what the third one does. I mean, I don't know if we could do like close to $250,000 again, but like somewhere in between, maybe that's what the norm is. I don't know. It's an exciting time for indie comics and Comicsgate right now.
Definitely, because I've had my own idea for a crowdfunding book I've been wanting to do, working on it for years. And I gotta say, I mean, with you, guys like you coming up with this stuff, you've had this planned out for a while. I so much appreciate that, because if I can be brutally honest, it does feel like there's been more of a overflow of people who are like, I can come up with this idea, lickety split, throw it out there, and then they're making it up as they go along. So to know that you've been planning some of this stuff out makes it feel like there's more hope for me going forward.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. There's always I feel like there's always opportunity for new creators, especially ones that take their time and don't rush into anything to make their own mark. I mean, especially with you already have like your YouTube channel established. I think you already have like over 1,000 subscribers, and
they're about, although those I don't know how many of those are still active, to be honest.
Yeah. So yeah, you're building an audience. So by the time you have a book ready, you could be well past 1,000 subscribers.
Hopefully, yeah. Because in my case, I've not only come up with years worth for my main line, I've been coming up with variations so I could ever do like in case of circumstances on one or the other, like, because that's always a problem. You have so many ideas, you come up with characters, but you need them at a specific point. He's like, now, actually, I want to ask you, what should I do? Should I come up with the character early, but have it set in the future? Or should I just find a way to bring the character in early? Or, you know what I'm saying, right? Because it's like, I know there's one character I've loved that created, but it's like, I want to bring him in now, but it doesn't fit now.
Yeah.
So, like, any suggestions you might have that I could do?
I don't know. I mean, I've always liked futuristic settings, so maybe you just do it in the future.
Or what I meant by not the literal future, I mean down the line in my timeline.
Yeah, no, that's what yeah,
that's what I meant. It's not literally the future. I mean, like, I would introduce stuff in the present day, but the character won't be coming for a couple of years down the line.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. But yeah, I don't know. Like one of my favorite all-time comics was G.I. Joe back in the Marvel days, written by Larry Hama, and he would like plant seeds for stuff that wouldn't pay off for years down the line. So I don't know. Maybe it's a case where you do something like that, where you have this character and you plant the seeds, and then eventually, but you're taking that risk that your book will last long
Yeah,
enough
that
for you to
long.
introduce them. Yeah.
So I was just curious from one writer to another.
Right.
But now I also got to ask: out of all the books you've done, who's your favorite character that you've had created? If you had to
Oh
pick
man,
only one,
that's a tough question. Yeah,
good
I
guy
mean,
or bad guy?
yeah, I got all my babies behind me right there on the shelf. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Sea Dog just because I created him with my son.
Yeah,
Yeah.
out of all of them, it was a blast reading his dialogue the most.
Yeah.
Just something fun. It felt fun, and the idea of this dog—he's not an alien. He's a dog that was given this amulet and made him anthropomorphized. I'm like, where has that been done before? I don't think that's been done before. Not like that.
Yeah, well, it was funny. Like when I was writing the book, when I don't want to spoil too much, but there's the first time you're introduced to a Sea Dog, he's rapping, and
Mm-hmm.
Clint was like, what does Sea Dog look like when he's a rapper? And I was like, he's a dog, and he was like, what do you mean? It's like, what, is he black, white? It's like he's not a person, he's a dog. And he was like, oh, you mean he's a dog person? I was like, yeah, exactly. He's a
Yeah, an
puppy.
anthropomorphized dog.
Yeah, he's a puppy who becomes this dog superhero, and his alter ego is also a dog person, but he's a rapper. So like it took a while for Clint to figure out what we were doing, and then he was like, oh, okay, and then he was like on board 100% that you know and the
Yep.
fact that there's
No.
a famous dog rapper and a famous dog superhero, both called Sea Dog, and the whole world doesn't know that they're the same person. I mean, it's just part of
Yeah.
the charm of the book, I think.
I think it helps that you have one of them hate the other one. I think that
Yeah.
helps. If he was singing his praise, that would be more suspicious. But having it be,
Yeah.
I'm going to sue his ass. Now, one of the things I was curious is, with a lot of the writing, are you at all, because whenever I'm reading it, I'm always reading this as, well, since you've gushed so much about the extreme comics era, are you intentionally writing it with that in mind, or is that just your traditional writing style? Because it does feel like when you were doing Savage Hawkman, a lot different than this, your crowdfunding stuff. So was that a lot of it, like I said, intentional?
I think so. I think especially with Sea Dog, I played it up a little more to like resemble the comics I loved in the '90s. But like when I was doing, I don't know. I feel like it sort of does have like the same tone as Hawkman. Like when we were doing that, Rob did an interview and he said that we, meaning like him and I, we make comics for people who still have that sense of wonder. And that's like I write the type of comics that I grew up reading, and maybe someone who's more of a modern reader might think, oh, that's a little corny or hokey, but that's what I grew up loving, and that's the type of comics I want to make.
Oh, and I love that era.
Yeah.
I grew up through the '80s and the '90s and the 2000s, and while I mostly got into it in the 2000s, I've always had my foot sprinkled here and there, leading up to me being a regular collector. So that's why I was asking, because it's hard to tell sometimes what's writing with intent and writing as a pastiche.
Right.
Hence why I was asking. So. Yeah, because it just feels that way. Like when you read something like that, it's just like, yeah, this feels like it's from that era. So
Yeah. No, that's what I was going for.
Right. Now, as far have you kept up with any current going books, or have you dropped off comics altogether?
So I still pick up my current books. Far behind on my reading.
So am I.
Yeah. But what I spend the most amount of money on is I just go back buying old 90s books. I had this big collection, but when I got married, I sold a lot of my collection just to pay off the honeymoon.
Right. I understand.
Yeah, so I've been going back and just buying things that I had or things that I missed out, because like one of the great things now is like when I was like a teenager in the 90s, I didn't have a lot of money, so I can buy all those books that I couldn't get, all those like gold variants or whatever. Like I have a Gen 13 box set of all 13 variant covers to issue 13, I think it was. And I couldn't afford that back then, but now that I'm a working adult, yeah, I can afford these things.
Right. well, with what's current though, like what books are you still keeping an eye on?
So I'm a big Power Rangers fan, so I'm.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I've been buying the Power Ranger books. I'm a little far behind on my reading of it though, but one of these days I'm gonna I read Shattered Grid and loved it. So after that I have to.
Did you read the Justice League crossover?
Yeah, well, I started reading. I haven't finished it. I have all the issues though, so yeah, I'm like maybe a year behind on my reading.
Right, and I'll tell you this: the Ninja Turtles crossover was just as good.
Yeah, I've been picking that up too, and like that I'll make a point to read. I still think I'm probably like maybe an issue or two behind on it, but yeah, I love it. Boom's really done a great job with the Power Rangers license, and I love that they didn't the main focus is on the original team, but they're including all the different incarnations of the Power Rangers.
Yeah, I think what helps is it's not trying to be beholden to the original series. It's using it as a template and going forward and being like, what if we play this much more straighter?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, for me, I still keep up with mostly DC, to be honest. That's always been my sensibilities because, let's be honest, I think in this world we need more DC than Marvel these days, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, I've always been a bigger DC fan. One of my all-time favorite books was Justice League International, which was yeah, definitely. Like I think like my first first time seeing them was the One Punch issue, and I was like,
One Punch.
Most people hated Guy Gardner, but I fell in love with him. I was like, oh, I love this guy.
I love him. I love the bastard.
Yeah.
The thing about him is that it's like, I think what's won so many people over was the fact that if he could win over a woman like Ice, there has to be something good about him. Either that or she's a colossal idiot, which we know she's not.
Yeah, no, she saw the goodness in him.
Exactly. And I gotta say, Peter Tomasi, I think, has handled him better than anyone else in recent years.
Oh yeah, I'll have to.
Yeah, his Green Lantern Corps book he did during New 52.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yep. So, well, I really don't have much else to bring up. Actually, it just went by a lot quicker than I was expecting. But well, you already said about what you have going forward. I just want to say, though, once again, thank you for such great reads, especially this past few days. With all this insanity going on, I needed some levity.
Yeah, no, thank you for all the support. It's crazy that I had like 2 books fulfilling at one time. Plus, you throw in USassassin for free, so like. You got the Mark Poulton hat trick. You got 3 new books from me. Well, 4 if you count the supplemental book.
Exactly. Hence why I decided it's Mark Poulton week.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. That's really flattering. Thank you.
Yep. I still find it ironic and so hilarious still that Codename Codename Killswitch and Sea Dog was supposed to come in later. And yet the Graveyard Shift was supposed to come in sooner. And biggest irony of all, it was John who sent it off from Michigan. It goes off to Pittsburgh and heads back to Michigan. What?
No, yeah, the mail is so screwy. I don't know if it's always been this screwy, or it's just messed up because of everything that's going on. But like I watch, like I've had to send packages to John, like because I have the original Volume 1 Graveyard Shift books, and we offered some of them to backers at a different tier. So they went off the grid for a while with our tracking. And I was like, are these books lost or what's going on? And then like a week. Yeah, and then like a week later, they popped up and said, "Oh, they're in Detroit," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is nerve-wracking." Like,
you think that's crazy? I ordered a because I'm a Rooster Teeth animation fan, a Blu-ray for Genlock. It doesn't even get far. Like I said, it's been sent off to Florida's distributor and just stops for 2 weeks.
No.
I get a refund. I reorder a new copy. About over a month and a half later, my mom shows up because it was sent to my old address. And so she's like, "Oh, here you go." What? It came through? I thought it was lost forever.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then we had a backer tweet us and said they got their book in Ireland in only 5 days. And I was like, how's it possible that the book's getting to Ireland in 5 days, but it can't get to like someone in, Michigan or New York or wherever in a week? It's crazy.
It is. But and by the way, next time you talk to John, could you point out to him about the little Graveyard Shift book? Because I still haven't gotten my digital copy yet.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'll talk to him. If not, I'll just send you the PDF to it.
Yeah, because am I the only person who ordered that thing, or were there others?
I don't know. It was offered as a digital add-on, so yeah, I'm not sure. But I know I sent the file to John so he could send it out to the backers. I'll remind him. I know he's got a lot going on with fulfilling our 2 campaigns. If not, I'll just send it out. I'll just tell him to give me a list of the backers, and I'll send it to everyone.
No problem. I just wanted to tack that on at the end because it's just like, yeah. I want to read it. I felt bad not ordering it.
No problem.
I really felt bad. I did not know what that was going to be about at all because I'm like, well, nowadays I try and get more bang for my buck lately. And actually, before we wrapped up, I actually want to ask, what is your opinion on like what someone else should do for crowdfunding? Like, should it be all about the perks? Should it be about the stretch goals? Or should it be about making sure the perks match the page count, for example? Because I've been noticing that a bit more lately. Smaller page count, large price. What the heck? Like, where do you stand on that?
So like, it seems like the Comicsgate model is a 48-page book for $25. Some people add more pages on as their stretch goals. Other people, if you want more content, that'll be like the $50 tier. You'll get either another book or an ash can or something. I mean, I don't think there's really one correct answer. But I'll say this as a backer for like the books I back, like at the price I pay, I really want that square bound spine.
Agreed.
Yeah. That's just like me as a fanboy saying, no, I want a book that I can put on my shelf for that $25.
Exactly.
Unless I get like an awesome chromium cover or something like 90s like that, then that makes it worth it to me too.
Right. I just asked because, like I said, that's been my little stipulation lately. I focus more on page count lately. And is this worth a bang for my buck? Because, like I said, there are some books where it's like, it feels like $25 for 24 pages. Things like that. Because I've seen some books doing that. I'm like, why?
Yeah, but with my books, I want to. I feel like for the price we're charging, I want to give a premium product. So I feel like with Graveyard Shift and Sea Dog, it had a nice thick cardstock cover, nice and shiny, has the square bound spine. So I feel like you're getting a premium product for the price.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And I agree completely.
And the USassassin stretch goal, that was the thickest book out of all of them, and you got that for free.
Yep. Oh, and again, wait until my review tomorrow to wrap up this week.
Oh, awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Again, I'm just asking that one because, like I said, with how it is, you never know what you're getting and how many people are following certain trends and how many are following other trends. So, I mean, like I said, not everyone could be an Ethan Van Sciver, but at the same
Right.
time, which I feel is a bit, as great as it is with Ethan, if I can be blunt, I feel like he sets the bar too much for people to think, oh, there's hope for me to get that much. It's like, no, don't set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, you have to be a little realistic. Not no one else is going to do those big numbers like Ethan. Ethan has such a huge audience.
Well, that and come on, $2,200 worth gold boxes, and they're all sold out.
Yeah,
It was obvious. It was like he was guaranteeing himself at once he did that. But yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, people should set their expectation more realistically. Like in my case, I want this to get out there so I can share it with the world. That's my intent for my idea. Is that I don't care if I break bank. I just want to get it out there.
Yeah, no. When John and I first launched the first graveyard shift, our goal was $5,000, and I was so nervous before we launched that. I was like, "What if we don't hit that?" Like, are John and I going to put in the money to make this book happen, or what? We've been working on it for so long, and then like we hit our goal like, within minutes. So, I had all this worry and anxiety for nothing. But yeah,
I think if it was sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think if it was pre-Jawbreakers, maybe you have something to worry about. Post-Jawbreakers, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, well, yeah. Thank you for Richard for doing such a great job with Jawbreakers and doing huge numbers.
Yep, I say Richard is the standard people should more aspire for. Great customer service, great price point, making sure he gets most of the book done, out of the way beforehand, all that stuff. I think he should be what people said as it, whereas Ethan is a league all of his own.
No, Richard, I saw what he was doing, and that like after Jawbreakers, the other books were, very close to completion when he was launching these campaigns, and I was like, oh, I'd like to, with the, thank goodness for Graveyard Shifts has given me this opportunity, but now I can get my other projects like almost to either 100% completed or very close to completion before I launch the campaigns. So like, all the artwork for USassassin 2 is done. Black Owl is only like 8 pages away from being done. Viking Wolf, I'm going to wait for that to be 100% done before I launch it. Since I have the means to be able to, get these projects done on my own dime before I launch the campaigns for the pre-orders, I figure let's do that and give the customers, a little shorter wait time to get their rewards.
Which is the best thing. I mean, again, I hate to give one more criticism to Ethan, but setting up the campaign and saying you won't get till next year, he's lucky he has such a devoted fan base. Otherwise, I think that would have been the biggest turnoff for most people if it was anyone else.
Well, it seems like he's starting to he wants to correct like the first one and I get other campaigns out there quicker, because I think like Unforgettable Tales is going to ship soon, and and I understand that. I'm just saying, if it was anyone else, that would have been the biggest turnoff, is what I'm saying. Right.
If it was anyone else.
Yeah, it's a lot of growing pains with everyone. Everyone's becoming their own publisher now, so everyone's learning as they go.
Right. I mean, again, we have so many great ones coming out and everything, and at the same time, we got to make sure we don't boil over, and it's like we bring it all down before it can even really take off.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, now I'm truly out of anything to say. So once again, Mark, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure and such an honor.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for inviting me, and thank you for supporting all the books. I truly appreciate it.
Yep. Tell John again, Want that explosion page aside? Love everything about it. So
I will.
thank him for me. Yep. And yeah, take care.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.